get down to the bulk of this discussion, recall that I told you that the moment there is an issue on the global financial market, I will call on you. And here we are, there are issues. But first and foremost, what is your assessment of the global financial market in recent times? I know since January this year, we have seen a lot of turbulence here and there. But what's your perspective on that?
It was before between the United States and China, the United States and Canada, the United States and Mexico, the United States and Europe. But it's like the United States, definitely with everybody in the world, every country in the world, there's a realignment in their trade patterns, in who they deal with. Virtually every country in the world has one issue with the United States as regards tariff, either increment by 10%, either increment by 15%, either increment by 30%, or suspension and maintain that level like what they have with China. So that has been what has happened. We've not seen stability in the global market. And I don't think that will come anytime soon. Maybe by next year, we'll begin to see those stability in the global market. At that time, we think maybe President Trump would have finished with his trade war agenda and then begin to look at relationships with other countries.
Exactly. When you say you are not sure, maybe we are going to see stability in the global financial world, many of our viewers were wondering, what could be the reason? What could be the reason behind this? Your perspective or sentiment about your statement in this regard?
Yes, because it's you don't even know what to expect. So definitely, that's again, it's what is causing those issues. Today we are looking at the Israeli-Palestinian war. Tomorrow we are looking at the Russia-Ukraine war. We don't know the other time. We're looking at American attacking Iran. So you don't even know what will happen because, again, like I always say, the global market is not meant to always be stable. There will definitely be some black swan issues that will come up. And again, since you don't know what to expect, especially when you look at the United States as it stands now, the world's largest economy. It seems to be going through a lot of rejig in terms of its relationship, its trade relationships, and a lot of things that they have to do with other people. There seems to be a new sheriff in town, and it's trying to change the dynamics of trade. And what we're saying, we're seeing a dynamic that we might not end with President Trump, but might also continue after he has left office. So we are seeing a realignment. So, and you know, is a Republican. And when it comes to foreign trade, foreign policy, whether you're Republican or Democrat, it seems to be a continuation or an improvement upon what they have before.
Exactly. But having said so, no, one aspect of our discussion segment is the link that we want to establish. Recent happening in the global crude oil price also having issues. But what was your reaction to that global crude oil price, instability, volatility across the world?
Well, that is also will continue. Crude oil price is a commodity, is a global commodity, and global commodity are affected by demand and supply. Global commodity also could be affected by security challenges. Global commodity can be affected by war issues and war, and also global commodities also can be affected by tariff. Global commodities also could be affected by trade policy. So all these are what drive global commodity. And when you look at that, one global commodity that we have now that is globally accepted that determine the flow of the economy, you look at oil, you look at gold. Those are the main two global issues. I mean, the commodity that are driving growth. Yes, you have other commodity in terms of agricultural output, but when you want to look at what really affects nations in terms of their economy, especially in the monetary term, then you have to look at those two trade commodity, oil and gold.
Talking about oil and gold, but let's stay with oil for now. The crude oil price is said to have a bit of influences on global financial market. And could you help us establish the linkage between the two, crude oil price, global market? What's the linkage?
And that will also bring us back to what I normally see in Nigeria, where I say Nigeria is a petrol economy.
Exactly.
When there is issues with refined petroleum product, high in crude oil price, then you definitely see the effect on the ordinary Nigeria. So I can say same again also for global oil, because again the world is energy driven, and practically every part of the world needs oil. Even that's why we are looking towards renewable energy, but the main energy will still be oil. And if you know the current trend of the United States president, what one of those agenda that President Trump is driving is to make sure that America also become a global player in the oil market, and he's driving that. You remember his speech, "Drill, baby, drill." So those are part of things that he's looking at. So definitely that tells you how important the oil market is to affect virtually every economy in the world, because you're talking about the oil market, you're talking about transportation. The economy can do without that, whether you're talking about land transportation, whether you're talking about air transportation, whether you're talking about sea transportation. Those are means of movement. Those are the economy life wire in any economy. You talk about movement. So that's the main reason why you realize that oil price it affects virtually every economy in the world.
Exactly. And I'm talking about the impact that it brings on global financial market is where many Nigerians and many of our viewers will be concerned about. What are these specific challenges that this price of crude oil, when it falls, normally bring on global financial market? You can help us to expose that.
Oh, you see, it sometimes it could bring a very negative effect, especially when you have an economy that's largely depending on them. And that's why you see an economy like the United Arab Emirates, like Saudi Arabia, one of the largest producer of crude oil. You see that they are trying to diversify into other sectors of their economy, bringing in tourism and other artificial intelligence, now looking at creating a hub for financial services, also looking at creating a hub for the service sector to operate, because of the instability that you can get in the oil market. So definitely, like it has an impact. But again, normally the lower price affect more of those nations that are monotonous. When I mean monotonous, that there are so means of income, especially a country like my great country, Nigeria. You look at country like Angola, that is in Africa. Also, you look at Venezuela in this other part of the world. So you see, when there's a fall in crude price, it affects the activities of the economy, because those economics solely depend on crude. Even if they solely depend on the major income is crude, even if they have other means of income, but their major income that drive effects into their market is crude oil.
Interesting. Now, one aspect of our discussion also falls on the aspect of the positive gains that global financial market normally derive from crude oil price. Recently I was talking to an energy expert, and he said that it has both sides, like a two-leg ring, the positive and negative. That when it becomes positive, everybody starts smiling. But when it becomes negative, all of us start shouting on the rooftop. But from your own understanding, the positive aspect, how does it really impact the financial aspect with the positive gains of crude oil price, knowing fully that global inflation normally comes when it gets so positive like this?
Well, again, it's positivity, like the energy expert you have said, it's a two-way thing. If you are an economic like Nigeria, you're excited when global oil price goes up. That means earn more FX. Then also, now we are now a refining nation. Also, that means the cost of refined petroleum product also will go up. And if the livelihood of your economy is like ours, that is largely driven by petrol, then you'll be seeing the effect in the price of goods and services within your nation. So the positivity, like I said, it's a two-leg thing. But for the high oil crude price, it has both positive, like I said, positive in terms of reserve for those countries, then negative in terms of high price of energy, whether petroleum product, gas, and others. So definitely, yes, if you look at a country like the United States also, you realize that high energy costs, high oil price does not do good to their economy, because that means it will increase the cost of living. And so they try to maintain at a stable rate within a particular limit so that it doesn't have that so much. And sometimes when it becomes that the price of crude is too high, they will then evoke release from their reserve to make sure they are able to surpass that, to suppress the price down. And also sometimes going into collaboration, having meeting with OPEC nation, with President Trump, it will be in the mid-vein of threat. We are going to pump more oil into the market, and sometimes so that will help the nations to increase supply, and then sometimes reduce supply also affect the price of crude. So they will say, look, you have to increase supply so that you can bring down the price and down. You remember when before he came to power, President Trump, crude oil was even between $80 per barrel. At a point, it even did $90 per barrel. But since he came into power, you realize that crude oil have been hovering between $60 to $65 per barrel. Once it went to like $71 per barrel, and that was due to the crisis that you have in Israel, Iran, or American attacking Iran, and then Iran also trying to attack American facility in Qatar. So you saw those prices went up, but after that you've seen that prices are relatively stable at 61, 62, 63, 64, or sometimes 65. And that also have affected my own nation, who has put its crude oil benchmark at $70 per barrel. So you can see what those effects can do in a smaller economy and what they can do in a larger economy.
Exactly. Now, having mentioned President Donald Trump, I wanted to make President Donald Trump. You saw what he did in Russia-Ukraine crisis, bringing them to the table. Let us talk about peace. And you could also recall that the war, having lasted for close to 4 or 5 years, and really bring about distortion, supply chain, iron ore, gas, and the rest of them. But what do you make of this peace deal that is coming? Do we see a green light? Although I highlighted in my discussion on my stock analysis, I said we could see a green light, and it could be very impactful on global economy. But from your perspective, do you see that green light, that light that will shine upon the world, that will eventually bring peace and total peace between Ukraine and Russia, and total peace to the Eastern Europe in coming days?
That President Trump is a deal master. They call him the best.
I think you are repeating this word. You are repeating this word for the third time. I've already said it severally, but for today, you are saying a deal master. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's a deal master, so he looks at what deals can be done. So for me, I'm very confident that with President Trump, you might have that peace that we need, even if sometimes it looks like that peace is not going to be achieved. We thought it would be firebrand when he meets President Putin, but at the end of the day, he said it was a friendly meeting, and President Putin said it was a frank meeting. And you know, in diplomatic cycle, when they say that the meeting was fruitful and frank, that means everybody just say their mind on what they think, and there's no result there. And then he has invited the Ukrainian leader to the White House, and the Ukrainian leader is not coming alone; he's coming with EU leaders also to meet with President Trump. So you can see that it seems like President Trump holds the 4 aces, and President Putin has invited Trump to come to Russia also, and so there's a lot of issues on ground. But if you ask me, I think there will be a solution, but how soon that solution will come is what I don't know. But I think for the sake of the peace of the world and for the people that are affected by this war, especially a country like Ukraine, we pray that they are able to achieve that ceasefire and peace deal as soon as possible.
Exactly, because I was so interested in the meeting because I could recall when the war started, global market, crude oil, gas, supply chain, all were affected by the war, but we are just hoping that this will come to an end soon. But let's, step down this discussion back home. I know you have been following the stock market in Nigeria. I saw 1 or 2 of your outing, and very impressive outing on that matter. But what is your conclusion, the recent positive earning on the floor of the NGX? Let's take it out from there.
I'll be surprised if there was no gain in the NGX this time, because again, that gain has been coming. Now you need to look at when you come up with reforms. reforms. First, two places reform hit first. You see positivity of reforms in investor confidence, especially if you're an investor, and business also expanding. So those are the two areas that get instant result when it comes to economic reform. So that's why the equity market, is an investor-friendly market. It's where investors go. You saw those respond either through the recapitalization of the bank, pronouncement of recapitalization of the bank, or the removal of subsidy, or the revaluation, or whatever we call it, whether we call it revaluation of the naira, or so you will see those you see those numbers, those policy help the market. And you look at the companies when this issue happened, realize that not all companies were positive, especially with the revaluation of the naira. You saw that some companies suffered losses, huge losses because of FX losses, while some companies suffered gain because of FX revaluation. So you see that even in the market, it's more or less like what I normally jokingly tell is turn by turn. So we are now seeing that all other aspects of the market are beginning to see they begin to feel the impact of the current economic policy of this administration.
Very great. Now, talking about the impact that this company are making, we just saw a recent data coming from the NGS. 10 companies, 10 firms, Boa Food, Dangote, MTN, Airtel Africa, Boa Cement, GT Co, Saplat, Zenith Bank, Geregu Power, all of them, Nigerian breweries, combined together made over a market value about 59.48 trillion, representing the NGS equity market capitalization of about 92.29 trillion. What's your take? You have been a follower, a player in that stock. 10 companies dominating from the industrial sector, the financial sector, the consumer goods sector. What is really happening?
Well, you shouldn't be surprised, Lincoln. That's how the market is. Somebody will tell you 20% of the company dominate 80% of the market. So, but when you look at these companies that you have listed and why they have been able to dominate the market in terms of what you just rightly said, is because of their prices. And again, when you go back, last year it wasn't like that, especially for a company like MTN, for a company like Airtel, for a company like Dangote, for a company like Boa, for a company, it wasn't like that because again, at that time they were suffering from FX revaluation. You saw huge losses from those companies. And so what you are saying now, why those prices of those companies has gone up, and then we are seeing the kind of result we are seeing in these companies, is because the FX market has stabilized. Remember when they suffered these losses, FX was at a high of about 1,750, 1,800. Today the FX market has stabilized at 1,530 or 1,550. And when you look at that, then you realize how powerful FX have on our economy. So what you see, you've seen those stability, and we need to make it clear, even when these companies were suffering those huge losses, it wasn't that they were not profitable. It was just because the FX losses they suffered also wipe up whatever gain they have gained in terms of profit after tax or profit before tax. You look at a company like the Nigerian brewery that you mentioned, the FX losses or wipe out shareholders from, then they had to do right issue, recapitalize right issues, then the major investors had to invest a huge amount of liquidity into the company, and we have seen that company now recover. So those are the challenges that they had then. For the banking sector, like the two stock you named, Zenith Bank and GTCO, you know how those have also moved in terms of price. Zenith Bank have completed its recapitalization. We can as well say that for GTCO to have completed its recapitalization because it has also been listed in the London Stock Exchange. Today is one of the most expensive banking stock, hovering between 90 to 100 naira per unit. So those are what have helped those stocks to be where they are. But we also let people know that it wasn't just happened overnight. We should not forget that sometime last year, especially this conglomerate that you listed, this consumer good companies that you listed, were suffering heavy losses.
Interesting. But out of these 10, in local parlance, we call inner circle of any group as a cabal. But out of these 10, there's what they call the Super 4. I know you are aware of the Super 4. Now, this Super 4, their own market share is about 41%. We have Bao Food, we have Dangote Cement, MTN, and Airtel Africa. But what's your take on this Super 4? But locally, we can say the cabal in Nigerian stock market.
If you look at those Super 4, I didn't know you people are giving them that name, the Super 4. If you look at this Super 4, out of those Super 4, you realize that only one is highly liquid, and that's MTN. When I mean highly liquid, it's available for people to purchase at any time, maybe depending on the unit that you want. If you look at the BUEREAUOFSTATISTIC, the share standing is very low. You look at Dangote's, and even with that low share standing, the owner of BUEREAUOFSTATISTIC, Ishaka Rabiu, owns about 90-something%, the same thing with Dangote Cement. So they also determine what the price will be depending on what they release into the market. If you look at Airtel Africa also, is Airtel Africa, and in terms of volume, that's what that helped drive liquidity. We've not seen so much liquidity in those sectors. Of all those stocks, I think it's only MTN Nigeria that you can fully say that, look, there's so much liquidity of that stock in the market. Me, for us to really know that these companies have their true value, we should begin to think of improving their liquidity, especially in terms of share standing, so that a lot of investors will be able to have partake in a dividend.
Exactly. And talking about MTN that you made mention, I know the liquidity around that company is huge, but take us to what has really happened to MTN. We saw them crying last year. We saw them, all over the newspaper page complaining about forex affecting them. But now, liquidity has come. What has really changed?
Yeah, when I mean about liquidity, I need to clear it. I mean in terms of liquidity nature of the stock, whereby it's available, share standing. So that's what I mean by liquidity. How liquidity I can enter and exit when I want to.
Exactly.
So, but when you're back to your question on MTN Nigeria, like I said, they weren't making profit. You know that MTN also is a company that depends so much of FX, because you are bringing in marks, you are bringing in a lot of things outside the shore of this country. So that situation affected their bottom line. Now, how were they able to come out of the wood? One of them is that we have stability in the FX market. At the time MTN released that, so the exchange rate was about 1,750. So you could see the losses from 450 at that time to 1,750. So that was really huge. You saw those numbers in their bottom line. Then you saw the price also move from a high of about I think about 250, 260 to a low of 163, 165. So now what has changed now is, one, like I said, now the FX has moved from that 1,700 to stable at 1,550. And then you now see that the National Communication Commission, NCC, now came with that increment in tariff. That also helps bring them out of the wood. So MTN also is the largest telecom company in Nigeria. So that increment in price also helped their bottom line. We didn't see it in the first quarter, but in the second quarter, you saw what those increments of price have done for MTN. So MTN that people thought would be out of the wood in about 3 or 4 years is looking that they are out of the wood in 1 year, and most likely by the end of this year, they might surprise their investors with dividend payments. So two things have happened that have taken MTN to where they are. One, FX 32 price increment by NCC.
Very interesting. But apart from the top 10, the Super 4, the cabal in the Nigerian stock market, the NS is also saying that about 15 companies have grown so much to the point that they are now heavyweight, and they have been able to cross the 2 trillion market capitalization mark that showed the underscoring and widening circle of Nigerian high-value corporates. What do you have to say about that? 15 companies are also coming up as, the big boys that we normally say on the Nigerian stock market. What do you have to say about that?
It's good for us, but we need more.
Exactly.
Not just one of the companies. We need more. We are expecting that the insurance companies with the current recapitalization drive, will soon join those league of the trillion naira company. Because again, in any developed economy, insurance seems to be the ones that think. I jokingly tell people in the United States, most of the banks are owned by insurance companies, but in Nigeria, it's the other way around. So maybe we are going towards the area.
Exactly.
And so that for me, I think one thing we are looking forward to. We are looking forward to deepening of. We are looking towards Dangote refinery being listed in the market, whether Dangote refinery or whether Dangote's fertilizer. And also we are looking for, no matter how long it will take, maybe it will be 2 years, maybe it will be 3 years, maybe it will be 4 years, NNPC Nigeria being listed in the market. So those are part of what we expect, and from the insurance sector, from the oil and gas sector, that also will help deepen the market and have more players rather than just 15. In some economies, they have up to 60 to 70. So that help deepen the market. So 15 is a good start, but I think we should strive to get more to that region so that investors will have variety to choose from, especially in making their investment decisions.
Exactly. Now, before I let you go, a quick one. One is that some analysts, financial analysts like you here back in Nigeria, they are saying that investors should be selective, they should stay alert, and look at the industrial goods, telecoms, and banking sector, so they can make a very positive move to invest in that regard. But do you agree with them on that regard?
Yes, I totally agree. But now we should add the insurance sector into that.
Exactly.
That's my addition. Banking because of the recapitalization. Insurance also because of the recapitalization. Industrial good because of the infrastructural development that we are going through. Consumer good, inflation figure come down. So a lot of Nigeria might be able to afford more, and that will affect their bottom line. So I'm definitely in support of that. But like I said, I just add the insurance sector to it.
Exactly. I won't let you go without asking you. I know your eyes is on the US capital market or stock market. How is it like? We are hearing that are taking everywhere, but you are there. Can you give us a piece of on that information?
Definitely, the American market is a tech-driven market. I mean, you look at most of those companies there and what they have been able to do. But again, like I said, the tariff war has slowed growth in the American market. It's still neither here nor there because of inconsistency in terms of policy in the area of tariff. But if you look at why the tech space have been consistent, it's that space that President have not imposed tariff of the tech goods were coming from China, or they're coming from Mexico, any part of the world. So that has helped that sector to be very stable. But other sectors of the market are really struggling because of this tariff policy. So the market is not as exciting like it was during its first tenure, where it was creating wealth for a lot of Americans. But like I said, it's still early days. It's just 1 year into its administration, and hopefully things will stabilize, because we are now beginning to see that the trade war is over. Because now what we are seeing is negotiations. So remember, the negotiation, we're now seeing a 93 months extension of its negotiation price tariff war with China. So all these help to stabilize the market.
Exactly. Muktar, thank you so much for coming on the show today, and your submissions are very, very laudable, with so much of intellectual sagacity, I would say, to understand the global financial market and the aspect of the crude oil fluctuation on global economy. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Lekon, and thank you for the kind words. Have a pleasure.
Maybe next time when we are meeting again, I'll ask you what is happening to South Carolina. How is the economy like? But we'll get to do that when next on the show. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.